And once that authentic self releases and they find that deep purpose, the big purpose, that becomes the evolutionary fuel that can start to propel them forward into their own divine life. And we are hoping to move a significant minority into Epoch 6. Into what Claire Graves stated that humans must prepare for, a momentous leap. Not merely a transition to a new level of existence, but the start of a new movement in the symphony of human history. That's how big Epoch 6 is. And I particularly like this quote from Corey DeVos, who I know, he's the editor for Integral Life. He's a really brilliant young man. I used this earlier in the program, but this is a good one. This is what we mean by divine pride. It is not a simple, it is a simple recognition of our holy heritage and an acknowledgement of the tremendous responsibility that comes along with this recognition. This is not the braggadocio of a New Age narcissist. It is a pride stripped of all arrogance, tempered by humility, and held with unwavering devotion to an intelligence infinitely greater than our own. It is important that we make this distinction, to dislodge ourselves from the tyranny of the ever-grasping ego. Otherwise, it would be next to impossible to feel the full gravity of this next statement. God needs you. There will only ever be one of you. You have a role to play in this unfolding cosmos. And God gets to experience God in a way not possible without you. And God cannot be full without your contribution. And as we take that into the world, moving through Tier 3, that gets heavy. It is important that we make this distinction to dislodge ourselves from the tyranny of the ever-grasping ego. Otherwise, it would be next to impossible to feel the full gravity of the next statement. And most people hide from the gravity of this next statement. You have not owned it. You have not admitted it. Because it's too much to bear in the world. And if you're going to bear it in the world on that vertical path of space, time, and matter and manifestation, where other humans are going to try to tear you down, they're not going to be ready for your open heart. They're not going to be ready for your metacognitive maps. They're going to want to stay small. They're going to resent you for playing large. They're going to do everything they can so they can stay asleep and not have to face into the mirror that you're holding up in front of them by the integrity with how you show up in the world. And to bear that will require at some point that you wake up, not just grow up. Because waking up puts a distance between all of that resentment, all of that suffering, all of that criticism, and it plunges you into something that just happily and joyfully gets to watch it and be unmoved and unaffected and continue to feel only the bliss of being. And tier 4 takes us into those awakening states, those enlightenment states, so that we can become, first and foremost, radically free. Real liberation is not the type of liberation that produces social justice in the world. It's the type of liberation that radically frees us from the world. And once we're free, then we can bring that freedom back into that evolving authentic self that is out there with a machete opening up new paths for the species.
Yes.
And then you can bring that light of consciousness into everything that's arising moment to moment to moment to moment. And that's awakening 2, or unitary awakening, or non-duality. And non-duality, contrary to New Age ideas, does not mush the many into one. It holds simultaneously the one and each individual as the many. That's why it's non-dual. That's why the traditions almost never really use the word or term one. They use the term non-dual because non-dual is both the one and the many. Simultaneously, paradoxically to the non-metamodern mind. Just a sec. And it's there that you realize part of you is not of that world, while you are simultaneously embedded in that world. There's actually a term in philosophy of religion called panentheism. That means that God is simultaneously transcendent to and yet immanent in everything that's arising.
Can you repeat the word?
Both. It's an important distinction. Most people do not get this point. And that's why nature mysticism doesn't get there. God isn't just nature. God is also transcendent to nature. And simultaneously nature. And that recognition is the unitary state, or awakening 2. And that re-enchants the world. Because you see the divine light in everything that's arising. And we want to bring that into the life process.